Hello. My name is Sarah, and I want to share my story with you. I grew up in a small town by the sea. Life there was simple but beautiful. Every morning, I could hear the sound of the waves. My family lived in a small house with a garden full of flowers. My parents worked very hard. My dad was a fisherman, and my mom took care of the house and cooked amazing meals. I have one younger brother, Tom. We used to play on the beach every day after school. We built sandcastles and collected shells. Those days were full of laughter and sunshine. I remember how happy we were in our small town. Everyone knew each other, and people were kind and friendly. On weekends, my family would go to the market to buy fresh fish and vegetables. My mom loved cooking, and she always made delicious meals for us. She taught me how to cook simple dishes like soup and rice. I enjoyed helping her in the kitchen. My brother and I also loved to climb trees in the backyard. It was a small world, but it felt like paradise. The beach was my favorite place in the world. I loved watching the waves and feeling the sand under my feet. Sometimes, my dad would take us on his fishing boat. We would see dolphins jumping out of the water. It felt magical. I always thought I would live in that town forever. But life had other plans for us. One day my dad told us that we would move to a big city. It was a shock, but my parents said it was for a better future. Leaving my town was the hardest thing I had ever done. I said goodbye to my friends, my school, and my favorite places. I cried a lot, but my parents told me to be brave. They promised that the city would bring new opportunities. I didn't understand it at the time, but I trusted them. On our last day in town, my friends gave me a book as a gift. It was about a girl who traveled to different places. I kept that book with me as a reminder of my hometown. Our journey to the city was long and tiring. I looked out of the car window and watched as the sea disappeared in the distance. The city was nothing like our small town. It was noisy, crowded, and full of tall buildings. I felt lost and scared, but my parents encouraged me to stay positive. They said it was the beginning of a new adventure. I didn't know it then, but they were right. My life was about to change in ways I could never imagine. When we arrived in the city, everything felt strange. Our new house was small and didn't have a garden. I missed the smell of flowers and the sound of the waves. The city was full of cars, and people rushing everywhere. It was hard to adjust at first. My parents started their new jobs, and my brother and I started at a new school. The first day of school was scary. I didn't know anyone, and everything felt different. At school, I tried to make new friends. It wasn't easy because I was shy. But slowly, I started talking to other kids in my class. One girl, Emma, was very friendly. She showed me around and introduced me to her friends. We became best friends quickly. Emma loved reading just like me. We would spend hours in the school library, exploring new books and sharing our favorite stories. Life in the city started to get better. My parents worked hard to provide for us. My dad got a job in a factory, and my mom worked as a cook in a restaurant. They were always busy, but they made time for us. On weekends, we would go to the park and have picnics. It wasn't the same as the beach, but it was fun. My brother and I also joined a local sports club. We played soccer and made new friends. One day my teacher, Mrs. Brown, asked me to read a story in front of the class. I was nervous, but I did it. After that, she told me I had a talent for storytelling. Her words gave me confidence. She encouraged me to write my own stories. I started keeping a journal where I wrote about my life and dreams. It became my favorite hobby. Writing helped me express my feelings and remember the good things in my life. As time passed, I began to love the city. It was full of opportunities and new experiences. I missed my hometown, but I realized that change could be a good thing. My parents were right. Moving to the city gave us a better future. I was grateful for their hard work and sacrifices. Looking back, I can see how much I learned from that experience. It taught me to be brave and to embrace new challenges. In the city, I discovered a whole new world of books. The school library became my favorite place. I would spend hours there, reading about adventures, magic, and faraway lands. My favorite book was about a girl who traveled the world. It inspired me to dream big. I started imagining myself visiting different countries and meeting people from all walks of life. Books became my escape and my inspiration. One day, I found a book about writing stories. It was full of tips and exercises to help young writers. I decided to try them. I started writing short stories about my life and my dreams. At first, they weren't very good, but I kept practicing. I shared my stories with my teacher, Mrs. Brown, and she gave me feedback. She told me, "Sarah, you have a gift. Keep writing." Her words motivated me to improve. My love for writing grew stronger every day. I started entering writing competitions at school. I didn't always win, but I learned a lot from the experience. My parents were proud of me. They encouraged me to follow my dreams. My dad would often say, "If you work hard, you can achieve anything." His words stayed with me and gave me strength. In addition to writing, I also enjoyed drawing. I would draw pictures to go along with my stories. My brother loved my drawings and often asked me to make pictures for him. He said I should become an artist one day. Although I loved drawing, writing was my true passion. I dreamed of becoming an author and sharing my stories with the world. As I grew older, I started thinking about my future. I wanted to study something that would help me achieve my dream. I decided to focus on English and literature. My teachers supported my decision and helped me prepare for university. I was excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to work hard and make my dreams come true. University was a big step for me. It was the first time I lived away from my family. I moved to a new city to study English literature. At first, I felt homesick and missed my parents and brother, but I quickly made new friends. My roommate, Lisa, was very kind and supportive. We became close friends and helped each other with our studies. University life was exciting and challenging. My classes were interesting, and I learned so much about literature and writing. I discovered new authors and explored different styles of storytelling. My professors were knowledgeable and inspiring. They encouraged us to think critically and express our ideas. I also joined a writing club, where I met other students who shared my passion for storytelling. We would share our work and give each other feedback. During my free time, I explored the city. It was full of museums, theaters, and cafes. I loved visiting bookstores and finding new books to read. Sometimes, I would sit in a park and write in my journal. The city was full of inspiration. I felt like I was growing as a person and as a writer. Every day was a new adventure. In my second year of university, I had an opportunity to study abroad. The university had a program that allowed students to spend a semester in another country. I applied for the program and was accepted. I chose to go to England because I wanted to learn more about its rich literary history. It was an exciting opportunity, and I couldn't wait to start my journey. Preparing for the trip was both exciting and nerve-wracking. I had never traveled outside my country before. My parents helped me pack and gave me advice. They reminded me to stay safe and enjoy the experience. Saying goodbye to them was hard, but I knew this was a chance of a lifetime. I was ready to step out of my comfort zone and explore the world. Living in England was like a dream come true. The moment I arrived, I felt like I had stepped into one of the stories I used to read. The streets were filled with history, and every building seemed to have a story to tell. I stayed with a host family, who were very kind and made me feel at home. They introduced me to British culture, food, and traditions. I loved having tea with biscuits in the afternoon and learning new words and expressions. My classes at the university were fascinating. I studied the works of famous authors like Shakespeare, Jane Austen, and Charles Dickens. I visited libraries and museums that held centuries of history. One of my favorite places was the British Library, where I saw original manuscripts of classic books. It was inspiring to think about the authors who had written such amazing stories. During my time in England, I also traveled to different cities. I visited London, Oxford, and Bath. Each place was unique and had its own charm. In London, I saw the Tower of London, the British Museum, and the famous Big Ben. In Oxford, I walked through the university's historic buildings and imagined what it would be like to study there. Bath was beautiful with its Roman baths and stunning architecture. One of the most memorable experiences was meeting people from around the world. At the university, there were students from many different countries. We shared our cultures and traditions, and I learned so much from them. It was amazing to see how different yet similar we all were. I made friends for life and created unforgettable memories. My time in England helped me grow in many ways. I became more confident, independent, and open-minded. I also improved my writing skills and gained a deeper understanding of literature. When the semester ended, I felt sad to leave but grateful for everything I had experienced. I knew that the lessons I learned would stay with me forever. Returning home after my time in England was both exciting and bittersweet. I missed my family and friends, but I also missed the adventures I had abroad. When I got home, my parents and brother were so happy to see me. They asked me about my experiences, and I told them all about the places I visited, the people I met, and the things I learned. It felt good to share my stories with them. I brought back souvenirs and gifts for my family and friends. For my mom, I bought a cookbook with British recipes. For my dad, I brought a small model of Big Ben. My brother loved the football jersey. I got him from a famous English team. Sharing these gifts and stories made me realize how much I had grown during my journey. It was a special moment for all of us. Back at university, I felt more motivated than ever. My experience in England had given me new perspectives and ideas. I started working on a project about how traveling influences storytelling. My professors were impressed with my work and encouraged me to present it at a university event. Standing in front of an audience and sharing my ideas was nerve-wracking, but it was also rewarding. I also reconnected with my old friends and shared my experiences with them. Many of them were inspired by my journey and wanted to know how they could study abroad too. I realized that my story could inspire others to follow their dreams. It was a wonderful feeling to know that my experiences could make a difference in someone else's life. As I continued my studies, I kept writing. My journal was now filled with stories, memories, and dreams. I started to think about publishing my work one day. The idea of becoming an author felt closer than ever. I knew it would take hard work and dedication, but I was ready to take on the challenge. My journey was just beginning. Graduating from university was one of the proudest moments of my life. My parents and brother were there to celebrate with me. As I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, I thought about everything it took to get to this point. From my small town by the sea to the big city, and then to England, it had been an incredible journey. I was grateful for every step of the way. After graduation, I decided to pursue a career in writing. I applied for jobs at magazines and publishing houses. It wasn't easy to find work at first, but I didn't give up. I kept writing and submitting my stories to different places. Finally, I got a job as an assistant at a publishing company. It was a small start, but it was a step in the right direction. Working at the publishing company was a great learning experience. I got to see how books were made, from the first draft to the final product. I met talented writers and learned from their experiences. During my free time, I continued to work on my own stories. I also started a blog where I shared my thoughts on books, travel, and life. To my surprise, people enjoyed reading my posts, and my blog began to grow. One day, I decided to send one of my stories to a literary contest. It was a story about a girl who moved to a new place and found her voice through writing. To my surprise, my story won first place. The prize included a chance to meet a famous author and get feedback on my work. Meeting the author was an unforgettable experience. She encouraged me to keep writing and never give up on my dreams. Winning the contest gave me the confidence to start working on my first book. It was a collection of stories inspired by my own life and travels. Writing a book was challenging, but it was also incredibly rewarding. I poured my heart into every page, hoping that my stories would resonate with readers. I dreamed of the day when I could hold my book in my hands and share it with the world. Publishing my first book was a dream come true. When I saw my name on the cover, I felt a mix of pride and disbelief. The book was called Journeys of the Heart, and it was a collection of short stories about courage, change, and following your dreams. My family and friends were so proud of me. My parents kept a copy of the book on the living room shelf, and my brother told everyone he knew about it. The book received positive reviews, and readers from different parts of the world reached out to tell me how much they enjoyed it. Hearing their stories and how my writing touched their lives was incredibly fulfilling. It reminded me of why I started writing in the first place, to connect with people and share meaningful stories. With the success of my first book, I started working on new projects. I wanted to write a novel that combined my love for travel and storytelling. The idea excited me, but it also scared me. Writing a novel was a bigger challenge than anything I had done before. But I remembered my dad's words: if you work hard, you can achieve anything. While working on my novel, I continued to travel. I visited countries I had only dreamed of before, like Italy, Japan, and Australia. Each place inspired new ideas and characters for my story. Traveling opened my eyes to different cultures and ways of life. It made me appreciate the beauty and diversity of the world. I wanted to capture these experiences in my writing. As my journey as a writer continued, I realized that life was full of surprises. From a small-town girl who loved the beach to a published author traveling the world, I had come a long way. But I knew there were still many stories to tell and dreams to chase. My journey was far from over, and I was excited to see where it would take me next. While working on my novel, I faced many challenges. Some days, the words flowed effortlessly, and I felt unstoppable. Other days, I struggled to write even a single sentence. There were moments of doubt when I questioned if I could complete such a big project. But I reminded myself of the reasons why I started. Writing was my passion, and I was determined to share my story with the world. To keep myself motivated, I joined a writers' group. We met once a week to share our work and provide feedback to each other. It was inspiring to be surrounded by people who understood the joys and struggles of writing. They encouraged me to keep going and gave me valuable advice. Their support made a huge difference. I also set small goals to help me stay on track. Instead of focusing on finishing the entire novel, I aimed to write one chapter at a time. Celebrating these small victories gave me the confidence to continue. Slowly but surely, my novel began to take shape. The characters came to life, and the story unfolded in ways I hadn't imagined. During this time, I balanced writing with my other responsibilities. I continued to work at the publishing company, which taught me even more about the world of books. I also spent time with my family and friends, who were my biggest supporters. Their encouragement reminded me that I wasn't alone on this journey. After months of hard work, I finally finished the first draft of my novel. It was far from perfect, but it was a huge milestone. Holding the completed manuscript in my hands was an emotional moment. I knew there was still a long way to go, but I was proud of how far I had come. Editing my novel was a whole new challenge. Writing the first draft had been an emotional process, but editing required patience and attention to detail. I read through my manuscript multiple times, making changes and improving the story. I also asked a few trusted friends and colleagues to read it and give me feedback. Their insights were incredibly helpful. One of the biggest lessons I learned during the editing process was the importance of letting go. There were parts of the story that I loved, but didn't add much to the plot. Cutting those sections was difficult, but it made the novel stronger. It was a reminder that sometimes less is more. I worked closely with an editor who guided me through the process. She helped me refine my ideas and polish my writing. Her expertise and encouragement gave me the confidence to push through the challenges. By the time we finished, the novel was better than I ever imagined it could be. As the publishing date approached, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. I wondered how readers would react to my story. Would they connect with the characters? Would they feel the emotions I tried to convey? Despite my fears, I reminded myself of why I wrote the novel. It was a story I believed in, and that was enough. The day my novel was published was unforgettable. Seeing it on bookstore shelves and online was a surreal experience. My family and friends celebrated with me, and I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. It was the culmination of years of hard work, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. After publishing my novel, I decided to take some time to reflect on my journey. I thought about the dreams I had as a child, and how far I had come. From writing in my journal by the beach to becoming a published author, it had been an incredible adventure. I was grateful for every step of the way, even the difficult ones. I also thought about the people who had supported me along the journey. My parents, who always believed in me. My brother, who cheered me on. My friends, who inspired me with their own dreams. And the readers, whose kind words and encouragement meant the world to me. Their support reminded me of the power of connection and storytelling. As I reflected, I began to think about my next steps. I knew I wanted to keep writing, but I also wanted to explore other ways to share stories. I started to think about giving workshops and talks to aspiring writers. Sharing my experiences and helping others achieve their dreams felt like a natural next step. I also wanted to continue traveling. The world was full of stories waiting to be discovered, and I was eager to find them. Whether it was visiting a bustling city or a quiet village, I knew each place had something unique to offer. Traveling had always been a source of inspiration for me, and I wanted to keep that spirit alive. As I planned for the future, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Writing had given me a voice and a way to connect with others. It had taught me the value of perseverance, creativity, and self-expression. I was excited to see where this journey would take me next, knowing that the possibilities were endless. The success of my novel opened up new opportunities one had never imagined. I was invited to speak at literary festivals and book clubs. Standing in front of an audience and sharing my journey felt surreal at first. I was nervous, but as I spoke about my experiences, I realized how much I enjoyed connecting with people through my story. Meeting readers in person was a heartwarming experience. They shared their thoughts on my book and how it had impacted their lives. Some said it gave them hope, while others said it inspired them to chase their dreams. Their words reminded me of the power of storytelling and the importance of following your passion. As I continued to attend events, I started to feel more confident as a speaker. I shared not only my journey, but also the lessons I had learned along the way. I talked about the challenges of writing, the importance of perseverance, and the value of believing in yourself. It was rewarding to see people leave inspired and motivated to pursue their own goals. Despite the excitement of these events, I made sure to stay grounded. I continued to work on new stories and projects, always looking for ways to grow as a writer. I knew there was still so much to learn, and I embraced the journey with an open heart. Writing had become more than just a career, it was a lifelong passion. In my quiet moments, I often reflected on how far I had come. From a young girl writing stories on the beach to an author speaking at literary festivals, my journey had been incredible. But I knew this was just the beginning. There were still many stories to tell and dreams to chase, and I was ready for whatever came next. One day, I received an unexpected email from a film producer. They had read my novel and believed it would make a great movie. At first, I thought it was a joke, but after confirming it was real, I felt a wave of excitement and disbelief. The idea of seeing my story come to life on the big screen was both thrilling and overwhelming. I met with the producer and their team to discuss the project. They were passionate about staying true to the heart of the story while adapting it for the screen. Their enthusiasm reassured me, and I decided to trust them with my work. The process of turning a book into a movie was completely new to me, and I was eager to learn. Throughout the adaptation process, I had the opportunity to provide input and share my vision. It was fascinating to see how the story evolved in this new format. Watching the actors bring my characters to life was an emotional experience. They added depth and personality to the roles, making the story feel more real than ever. As the filming progressed, I visited the set and met the cast and crew. Their dedication and hard work inspired me, Everyone was working together to create something beautiful, and it reminded me of the power of collaboration. It was a reminder that storytelling is not just a solitary endeavor. It's a shared journey. When the movie was finally released, I felt a mix of pride and nervousness. Seeing my name in the credits and hearing the audience's reactions was unforgettable. The film brought my story to a wider audience, and I was grateful for the opportunity to reach more people. It was a milestone in my journey that I would cherish forever. After the success of the movie, I decided to challenge myself further. I began exploring new genres and styles of writing. I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and see what else I was capable of. It was both exciting and intimidating, but I knew that growth often comes from trying new things. I started working on a series of children's books. Writing for a younger audience was a completely different experience. It required a simpler, more imaginative approach. I drew inspiration from my own childhood and the stories I had loved as a kid. Creating colorful characters and magical worlds brought me immense joy. At the same time, I began experimenting with poetry. Expressing my thoughts and emotions through verses was a refreshing change. Poetry allowed me to explore deeper themes and connect with readers on a more personal level. It was a new way of storytelling that I quickly fell in love with. Balancing these different projects was challenging, but it kept me motivated and inspired. Each genre taught me something new about writing and about myself. It reminded me that creativity has no limits, and there is always more to discover. The journey of a writer is one of constant evolution. Through these experiences, I also realized the importance of giving back. I started mentoring aspiring writers and sharing what I had learned over the years. Helping others find their voice and tell their stories was incredibly rewarding. It was a way to honor the support I had received and to keep the cycle of inspiration going. As my career continued to evolve, I found myself returning to the roots of why I started writing in the first place. I revisited the simple joy of crafting stories that resonated with both myself and others. I began writing a memoir, one that would detail the trials, triumphs, and lessons I had encountered throughout my journey. It was deeply personal and sometimes difficult, but also cathartic and rewarding. In parallel, I launched a podcast where I interviewed other writers, artists, and creatives. Hearing their stories of perseverance and growth enriched my understanding of the creative process. It also became a way for me to share the diverse and fascinating experiences of those who inspire me. One of the most fulfilling aspects of this stage of my life was working on literacy programs for children and adults. Partnering with organizations that promoted education and reading brought me a sense of purpose beyond my personal accomplishments. I was giving others the tools to find their voices and pursue their dreams. I also took time to explore new hobbies and interests outside of writing. From learning to paint to trying my hand at gardening, these activities reminded me of the importance of embracing curiosity and finding joy in the little things. They enriched my life and often sparked new ideas for my stories. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that success was not just about achieving milestones, but also about growing as a person and making a positive impact on others. The connections I had formed, the stories I had shared, and the lives I had touched all contributed to a life filled with meaning and purpose. As the years passed, I felt an even deeper connection to the essence of storytelling. My focus shifted toward helping others tell their stories. I began hosting workshops for aspiring writers from all walks of life. These sessions became a space where people could share their experiences and discover their unique voices. Watching their confidence grow was one of the most rewarding aspects of my journey. I also collaborated with schools and libraries to encourage young people to read and write. Seeing the spark of creativity in children reminded me of my own beginnings. I felt a sense of responsibility to nurture their imagination and show them that their ideas mattered. It was a way to give back to the community that had supported me throughout my life. In addition, I started documenting the stories of people in my hometown. These were everyday individuals with extraordinary experiences. Their resilience, kindness, and wisdom inspired me deeply. Collecting these stories and preserving them felt like a tribute to the place that had shaped me. On a more personal level, I continued to grow and evolve. I spent time reflecting on the lessons I had learned and the relationships I had built. My family and friends remained my anchor, and I cherished every moment with them. Their love and support were constants in an ever-changing world. The joy of writing never faded. Every day, I woke up excited to create, to explore, and to connect. I knew that as long as I had words, I had a purpose. My life was a tapestry of stories, some written, some shared, and some yet to be told. As I approached a new phase in my life, I found myself drawn to the idea of slowing down and embracing simplicity. While my career had been filled with incredible milestones, I realized that true fulfillment came from the quieter moments. Walking along the beach, listening to the waves, and watching the sunset became my favorite rituals. I decided to spend more time mentoring the next generation of writers. Sharing my experiences and insights with them felt like passing on a torch. Their enthusiasm and creativity reignited my own passion for storytelling. It reminded me that the journey of a writer is never solitary. It's a shared path of inspiration and growth. At the same time, I started working on my final novel. This story was the culmination of everything I had learned and experienced. It was deeply personal, a reflection of my journey and the people who had shaped it. Writing this book was an emotional and transformative process, one that allowed me to look back with gratitude and forward with hope. As the book neared completion, I felt a profound sense of peace. It wasn't about achieving one last success or leaving behind a legacy. It was about embracing the present and celebrating a life well lived. The stories I had told and the connections I had made were enough. They were my way of contributing to the world. In the end, I realized that my journey was never truly about the destination. It was about the people I met, the lessons I learned, and the stories I had the privilege to share. As I turned the final page, I smiled, knowing that the best stories are the ones that live on in the hearts of others. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found the story inspiring, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us and helps us create more content like this. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your favorite part of the story or how it inspired you. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Join us as we continue to share more stories, insights, and inspiration. Remember, the best stories are the ones we share together. See you in the next video.